Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name's Owen, and this channel is about my story of recovery from drugs and gambling addictions to being sober and running my own business. So today's video is about when I lost my personality through smoking weed and other things. So if you watched my first video, you'll know that my drug addiction started through me trying to fit in, look cool and stand out. So then I developed this whole personality of being the one that everyone laughed at, who was too messed up on drugs, and I developed this whole personality just around being messed up really. Whether that was so out of my head that I couldn't think, I couldn't speak, or whether I was doing something stupid and acting out, it was people laughing at me, not with me. So I went through a phase, in my opinion, how it felt to me, of kind of losing my whole personality, my persona, my character, and then coming down to nothing, the raw form, and having to rebuild myself, relearn a lot of things that I'd forgotten and that I once knew. When I started smoking weed really heavily, I was living with some guys at uni, and it's when my mum kicked me out, and I would go to work stoned every single day. So all throughout the day, I'd be sat stoned at work, I'd be trying to mask the smell of it, I'd be anxious because I'd be looking around me wondering if people knew I was stoned, I'd be on the phone to customers selling them phone contracts, wondering if they knew. I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that I'd rather be at home eating. So every day, all day when I'd go to work, I was in this constant anxious and paranoid state, always overthinking, always trying to hide something, and always feeling bad about something. Now, in my experience, I definitely overthink so much more when I'm stoned and I've smoked weed. And then at that time, I owed money out, I owed money to drug dealers, I was in a lot of trouble, so every night when I'd walk home from work, I'd be checking the cars, seeing if there were drug dealers waiting for me, people outside to get me. Every time I heard a knock at the door, I thought it was someone coming for me, and I was just constantly in this anxious and paranoid state, and I just kept smoking, overthinking it more, and not really taking control of any of my problems or doing anything about that. So it got to a point then where, from waking up to going to sleep, I was constantly paranoid and anxious. I was worrying about if people were after me, I was worrying about the money that I owed out, I was worrying about hiding being stoned, I was worried about how I looked stoned, all this kind of stuff, and this was every single day from waking up to going to sleep. So after a while, that became the norm for me. That's all I felt. I stopped feeling this joy, this fun side to me. This kind of persona that I had to uphold to everyone else dropped out of me, and yeah, I just became numb at a point. And this was before I moved back home a few years ago. And then it wasn't just when I was stoned that I was feeling this paranoia and this anxiety, because I was so used to it and it was habitual. It then became when I was sober also. I moved back home and I felt so numb and so dull. I felt like I'd completely lost my personality. I couldn't make myself smile, I couldn't make myself laugh, I couldn't make anyone else laugh. I felt like I had nothing interesting to say, nothing going on. I lost all my knowledge. I didn't really have anywhere to start. All I could do is smoke weed, play guitar, and just watch Netflix and things. So because this is how I felt and I felt so dull, I'd still see my friends and I'd still go out, but I felt like I never had anything to say, and I felt like I never had anything funny or a good idea to contribute. So then every single time I'd see my friends, it became a case of smoking weed again, just to somewhat escape to this fantasy world. But I'd still sit there in silence, but that made me feel better and gave me some comfort inside. I'd sniff ket just sat in the house, we'd sniff coke, we'd take pills, and again, it was just to escape, and it was to escape how empty I was feeling and how I felt like I had nothing to say. So it got to a point, and this was a big turning point in me kind of cutting down smoking and making a lot of changes, like going to uni and things like that, that I didn't really want to spend much time around my friends anymore, because I felt awful, I felt dull, I felt boring, I felt stupid, and it was just better to me to spend time on my own. So I started spending so much time on my own, and then I was smoking, but I realised that weren't making me feel any better, it weren't sorting my personality out. So that's when I kind of cut down smoking in a sense, and it was easier to cut down smoking because I was on my own and I weren't around my friends that were doing it, and I didn't feel like I had to live up to a certain expectation. So yeah, then at this point I was just so numb, and when I was sober, I still felt boring and everything, and I had to just kind of rebuild that personality completely back up. So I started using an app called Quora, which is stories and experiences from people across the world in many different professions and at many different levels of life. Now, I'll tell you more about that in another video, because I'm going to do a video about apps that I recommend that have helped me. But that was really interesting because there's a lot of life advice on there. You can follow topics of life and hobbies and interests that matter to you. So I read a lot of stuff on Quora, I got a couple of books and I started reading them, and I adopted new ways of looking at life and new ways of thinking that were more positive. And then it took me months and months, but in turn, obviously, I slowly fell out of the anxiety and the paranoia that I was feeling, and I started slipping into the better thinking, the more positive thinking, and the thinking that was going to get me out of this rut, ultimately. Don't get me wrong, it took me months to rebuild this personality, and I'm going to do a video on some of the resources that I used at the time and things that helped me. But yeah, through this positive thinking, I then realised that I wanted to start making music again, so I started making music again and spent so much time making music. I was unemployed at the time. My mum wanted me to get a job because I weren't paying her any board or rent or anything like that. I had no money for anything and I weren't contributing to my home. But to me, it was more important to sit making music all day. From the minute I woke up, I'd make music all day on my laptop with my headphones in, and I'd stay up till 3, 4 in the morning just making music, and I did that for months, honestly. And I had so much grief from my family, and that's fine. Obviously, when you get to a certain age, of course you've got to contribute your own thing, and you can't expect your parents and other people to pay for you all your life. But at that time, all I wanted to do is just make music, because it took me completely away from this lost personality. But the music brought me so much joy, so every time I made music, it was kind of a meditation, because that's all I'd think about, and I'd forget about all these worries, and then I'd make music for months, and I felt so good, because that was the most amazing thing to me in the world, and to this day I still feel amazing when I do make music. And then I started feeling better in myself. Obviously I felt like I'd got a bit of character back, because I had this music going on and it was something I could talk about to other people, and it was something I could learn about. Then obviously I moved to university, did music, and then yeah, I feel like that's when I got most of my character back, because I went to university, it was social, I met loads of people, I got in a relationship where I was able to fully be myself, and I felt love, and it brought this whole creative side out of me, and this joy and this childish side. And yeah, I'm aware that weed isn't the sole purpose that I felt like I did lose my personality. It was all these other issues that I got myself into. But like I said, weed definitely makes me overthink more, and it makes my mind race more, it makes my heart race. So if I wasn't smoking weed all the time, I don't think it would have been so easy to get myself to a point where I felt absolutely numb. Because for the little amount of time that I did used to be sober, any worries that I had, I could just forget about. But as soon as I got stoned, it came out, and then it set this constant mindset of worrying in me. But yeah, as usual, always reach out to me if you need to. I'm sure these stories might resonate with some of you, even just little parts of them, and that's what I'm hoping they'll do. It's been Owen, thank you so much for watching. If you could subscribe to the channel, it will be at either side, and you'll be notified when I post more videos. The next video is coming very soon, look out for that. I will definitely see you again. Thank you.